guess we'll get started here. If you have your attention. Thank you all for coming on a rainy night. We've had quite a few rainy nights this spring. I think it's like the wettest on. It's a lot of rain this spring, isn't it? For sure. But thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Tonight's presentation we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. But of course, we always like to start out by thanking Dick Preminger for letting us use his here. And I think everyone likes to, get a drink or some food from the cereals over there, and just make a nice night of it. So thank you so much, Dick, for accommodating us. How many members? I always ask this every week, and we've got a pretty well full house of members here. Well, for your friends who are not a member, tell them to join, because there are advantages to being a member. They can, of course, have unlimited visits to the museum. They can attend our speaker presentations here for free, and of course, gift shop discounts as well. So there's some benefits there. I hope they take advantage of it. We are supported strictly by admissions and memberships. We have a few grants here and there, donations, of course, and of course supporting sponsors that support our programs like tonight. We'd like to thank Drury Outdoors for sponsoring tonight's presentation. So please give a round of applause for Drury Outdoors. Great operation there. If you have some ideas for a speaker presentation, please let us know about it. We'll research the topic and find the people, or maybe you know of someone, maybe you yourself have something very interesting that you think the community would be interested in. We'd love to hear about it, so be sure and let us know about it. We've got a lot of children's activities that are kind of in full swing at the museum this summer. Pardon me. On June the 12th, kids can compete in a shipbuilding contest and learn about what it was like to be a Viking. We'll also have another Dino Lab Day on June 21st with Mike Fix over there. You can have a birthday party at the museum. Even you can have a birthday party, or your grandkids would like it too. I think they'd get a kick out of it. On June 25th, our next speaker presentation will feature Mel Carney. He is a Vietnam veteran and an author, and he'll present our program. And it's very difficult to explain combat to a non-combat person. Well, this is something that veterans struggle with on a day-to-day basis, including Carney. But he's written about it in a new book, one of 4 that he's written. And you'll hear his own compelling story of his time in Vietnam, as well as stories from other veterans as well. So, very interesting man. I think you'll enjoy his presentation. But let's move on to tonight's presentation. We welcome Conservation Agent Rob Sulkowski, and he's going to talk about the many facets of conservation, from forests to fisheries to wildlife like the bears, and we may have to have a private conversation on armadillos. They're doing a number on my yard. Please welcome Rob Sulkowski.
Do I need this?
Why don't you?
You want me to talk in this, don't you?
Yeah. And just tell me when you want me to do a slide.
Yeah, we're not on the slideshow yet. So everybody knows what a game warden is. Obviously, I do a lot of school programs for kids, and I can BS through a lot of kids easy, but you guys are gonna be a little tougher. And don't do slideshows, so you're gonna enjoy this a bunch. This was kind of an impromptu thing. So I had phone calls on the way to the Orris tonight about black bears. We're dealing with a black bear over in Cape. We're dealing with a black bear over in St. Francis County right now. We had a black bear, I think it was a week ago, last Wednesday or Thursday, and that's that picture on the top left. And that was just snapped off of Facebook. That's cinnamon colored black bear. And again, this isn't what I came to do a program for, but I think it's kind of interesting. This black bear that's laying dead in the ditch was right there in Staubtown in front of Dean and Kimberly's house. What was that, 2022? In 2022. And my daughter's the ag teacher in St. Gen, and we skinned that out and had it tanned. NWTF actually paid for the tanning. And so she's got it hanging in her classroom with the skull. Pretty cool, but that's probably the first black bear killed in St. Gen for 100 years. And it happened to be by a car. Have no idea who hit it. I think they thought they hit a cow or something. Probably drunk and got out of there quick. But this cinnamon black bear up here, he showed up, and these are 150 pound. He looks a little bit bigger, that cinnamon. And they're just males looking for new places to live. And when they get up here, there's too many people, there's too many dogs barking at them, there's too many cars, and they get the heck out of here eventually. You know, mid-June, they're gone back to the Ozarks, the deep Ozarks, Shannon, Reynolds County, Arkansas. So we see them for a little bit, but I don't think we have any staying here. I would love to have them stay here, but like I said, they don't want to be around. The day before this bear was hit on B Highway in Stobtown, I had one hit in Festus that I had to run up and pick up just south of Festus. And we watched that bear for 3 or 4 days, and it finally made the poor choice at rush hour trying to cross I-55. So, and this bear I think we had on film, I'm gonna say 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 different people sent me pictures of them. So once we get them in the county, we see a bunch of them. You know, that same bear, he's running around and everybody's taking pictures because it's awesome. And then he either leaves and we find him in Deloge. We had one that moved here, he went to Deloge, he ate somebody's bird feeder in Deloge. He went over to Potosi and tried to eat somebody's garbage, and we never saw him again. So we're not sure if he got shot or what happened to him. But we had one that was over by Lake Forest. Ray Joggers had him in his backyard, if you know Ray. Had pictures of it, and then Randy Vessel had it on his front porch. He moved up to the Festus area the next day, and we lost sight of him for, I think it was 24 hours, and all of a sudden, pictures of him in Marion, Illinois. So he swam the river and dissipated on the southern part of Illinois and back into Tennessee, I guess. But so we have them roam around. I don't think we have a population living here yet. But I don't know, bears are pretty interesting if you ask me. You got any bear questions before we talk about CWD? You're worse than those kindergartners.
When you say you follow them, you track them somehow, or you just...
No, I mean, you can't fart in St. John without me getting a phone call. I mean, if a bear crosses the road, I get 2 phone calls. And I'm tracking this bear with my wife and kids laughing like, oh, it just crossed, 55, and now it's in Bloomsdale, now it just ate Ray's bird feeder, and it's kind of fun. So we could track them quite a bit. And of course the agents talk amongst each other, and this cinnamon got south of Farmington. The Farmington agent, or St. Francis County agent, called me and said he just moved down there. This was yesterday, I guess, or day before yesterday. So we can kind of track them in a circle.
How fast do they go?
We had one in Farmington last year, and we spent all day babysitting this thing because the crowds want to come see him. And the problem is he's stuck up in a tree in somebody's yard. So our job is to move the crowd out. We're not doing anything with the bear. He's not hurting anybody. He's like a big old fat raccoon. And obviously you don't want to fight one, but they're pretty docile animals. But obviously they're big enough to hurt you if they get cornered. So we just kind of watch them. Is that what you asked?
How fast do they move?
Man, they can move different counties overnight. They can really roam.
Hit in front of our house there. Somebody had pictures of it the day before over in Ozora on J Road.
Just the evening before.
Yeah, the evening.
Yeah, I got pictures of them in a field.
7-8 miles away.
Yeah.
That's a crow fly.
Well, they're fast if they're wanting to run. Obviously, they don't run too much. We had to babysit one in Farmington until dark, and then everybody leaves because they can't see them and they're scared. And then it popped up in Deloge the next morning. And why it went from town to town, I don't know. You would think it'd run out in the national forest and be gone. Yeah.
He was looking for a bear B&B.
It could have been, or somebody's garbage. We put out this program called Be Aware or Bear Aware, and it tells you, hey, don't put your garbage out, watch your bird feeders. Now, nobody in St. John County needs to put their bird feeders up because bears. You might get hit. Doc Fowler's last year, his beehives got hit over off, where's Doc Fowler live off? Karen Road. So do you quit doing bees because you got hit by a bear? Not in St. John County. I think it's pretty awesome. I'd love my beehives to get hit by a bear if I got pictures of it.
So these bears right now, you see them like in Missouri here, they're looking for a mate. And then they're going to go back into the deep Ozarks or something, is that right?
Yeah, they're trying to establish new territory. That's what all wildlife does. And when they get up here, they don't like it. They're not finding the females. too many dogs are barking at them, people are chasing them, and so they meander back to their hometown. So I went on we had a bear biologist, Laura Conley, and this woman was crazy. She would crawl in those bear caves, you know, in May. And, you know, these bears are starting to wake up and think, you know, it could be 80 degrees when we're out there. She'd crawl in them and drug the mom bear to put her to sleep for a little bit. And she had to do some medical stuff, you know, open their mouth so they didn't choke on their tongue. But she would pull the cubs out and they would tag them and take weights and make sure they're healthy. But they were taking female bears from like deep Ozarks, cubs, and putting them in with this sow that she had in the cave in Reynolds County. Because she had 2 boars, cubs, and those boars will roam, and they're just gone. And that was a good place to have a bigger bear population, so the female cubs will stay around mom their whole life in that same territory. So to increase the bear herd in that area in Reynolds County, they put the female cubs with that female and took the males down to the area down south towards Arkansas because they have a big enough bear population. They're not even awake yet. The moms aren't.
But the mother will take them.
Oh, absolutely, just like that, you bet. Yeah, it's kind of like putting turkey eggs under a chicken. When they hatch, the mama chicken loves the turkeys. You know, we've done that with ducks, and the mom chicken goes crazy because the ducks go jumping into the water, and she's screaming to get her chickens back. So yeah, that bear stuff's pretty interesting. They think there's probably around 1,000 bears in Missouri right now, and when they got to that threshold of, I think it was 800, they opened up our bear season in Missouri. And you know, they give out 20 tags in this zone and 40 tags in the southwest Ozarks. And I think there's 5 or 10 tags maybe up in North Missouri. And they've never killed a bear with any of those tags. I think we killed 2 in this zone. But you know, you can't bait, you can't use dogs. So you almost have to be a landowner that sees the bear every evening to actually harvest a bear in any of these, in Missouri. So it's hard to get a tag, and once you get a tag, it's hard to kill a bear. So we're not killing very many. I think we killed 12 last year. Yes?
Is it just for sport, or do they actually eat them?
They eat them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not that hungry. I like Dairy Queen, so I've eaten bear before, but I've eaten possum too, and I'm just not. Yeah, I like deer loin and chicken.
Well, I heard that bears have a high percentage of trichinella.
Man, it's way over my head. I'm a game warden. I don't know. Trichinoma?
Parasite that causes trichinosis.
Trichinosis? I bet they got all kinds of parasites. I don't know how a thing survives out there. You ever seen a deer this time of year? Those fawns? They're just covered with ticks. I don't know how they make it.
Remember how many ticks were on that bear?
Yeah, I skinned it. Yeah. It was covered.
The ground was crawling.
I just don't know how they survive it. You know, they talk about up north in Canada, 80% of the moose young die from tick bites. You know, lack of blood. So they do have a lot of diseases, but it's kind of like when you say armadillos have leprosy. Yeah, they can get it, but you know, we've never had one with leprosy around here. So, but you know, you find a dead one in your yard, you don't pick it up and sniff on it and rub your hands on it, let your kids play with it. Wear gloves, throw it in the trash can, you should be fine. But back to your point, you know, a lot of people kill them as a trophy also. You know, and you kill a bear in Missouri, that is a trophy, because they were extirpated back in, the 1800s. So they're just starting to move back, and you know, we didn't stock them. They moved in from Arkansas, just like these young males roaming around. Now they're protected, and when they're protected for years, and when I say they're protected, I mean you just can't go out there and shoot one. Kind of like a box turtle. You know, people are like, why are box turtles protected? I'm like, well, you and I, normal people, don't collect box turtles and eat them or sell them, but there are people out there that do. So we got to protect the non-game species. Any other bear questions? This CWD program is very exciting, especially if you're not a deer hunter. We're going to talk, everybody knows about the CWD in St. John County, and we're kind of a unique area. CWD is chronic wasting disease, and I don't want to bring it way down if you guys already know about it, but it's a it's a disease that we're kind of unfamiliar with. That you heard of Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease in humans? Yeah. Mad cow disease. What's sheep is scabie or scrapie or scabies. So it's a scrapie. It's the same disease, but it's in white-tailed deer or ungulates they call it. So anything that's got a split hoof like a elk, moose, white-tailed deer, mule deer can get this prion, and it's a folded protein. So it's not a virus, it's not a bacteria, it's nothing they can survive. Once it gets into their brain system, it makes their brain like sponge, and they slowly die. And the biggest hard thing for me to swallow is it takes 18 to 24 months to kill them. So the problem is it's 100% fatal once they get it. 100% fatal. And we've had the disease in North America since it was 1960. I guess they discovered it in Colorado with a sheep herd that was next to a mule deer herd. The biologists were doing a study on scrapie, and it jumped species into the mule deer, which is creepy because we don't want it to jump species into anything else. You know, you don't want coyotes all of a sudden starting to die from it, or whatever, or us, or anything. But it's specific to white-tailed deer, mule deer, any of the ungulates. Go ahead. And you're gonna hit it twice. Hit it again. The basics of chronic wasting disease, it's an untreatable disease. And you gotta keep in mind, we're trying to keep the disease prevalence very low in St. John County. We're a hot zone for the state. We kill more positive deer in St. John County than anywhere else in the state. So it's a little bit concerning. And what happens is the deer herd slowly reduces. The numbers do. And not so much that as the age of the deer start to reduce. The mean or the average age. So if you kill 1,000 deer, let's say in Texas County, you know, your average age is gonna be 4 years old, let's say. But after years of chronic wasting disease, you kill 1,000 deer in St. John County, your average age is 2 years old. And so when you're a trophy buck hunter, that really affects you. It really does. And some of the guides and those outfitters out in West, Montana, Colorado, they're starting to Saskatchewan, they're seeing that result, that they're not finding large, mature bucks because they're all dying from CWD. But it slowly reduces your deer herd. You and I won't see it, but grandkids might, my kids might. The deer herd is going to slowly drop. I was the first one in St. John County to find a positive deer actually alive. Put it down, send it off. So we've got video of an actual deer with chronic wasting disease. Most of the time we just find them dead. You know, they're real skinny, buzzards are eating them. We send off the tissue sample if we can. They come back positive. But we actually had live footage of a deer, and it was just off 61 highway. And then we had another one just down on 55 highway, right before Ice and Bice Bottom Road. But that was a positive deer that's still alive that we had photos of. So that's a scary thing. We're starting to get deer dying from the disease, and that's ones we're finding. And we got ways that we're trying to, you know, we're doing the best management we can. We get a lot of bad rap for this, and I get it, man. You buy a farm and you're putting deer herd management in there and you're planting food plots, and then we come up and say, hey, shoot every deer you've got on the place. That's hard to swallow, and we understand that. But the reason we want to shoot and cull those deer, if you got a positive deer on your farm, most likely all the other deer on your farm are positive. It might take 2 years to kill them, but we want to try to get those deer out of the herd. And the percentage of positive deer we kill during this targeted hunting, or when we give you extra permits if you own ground in that positive property or that positive area, the core area, you're killing more does, you're killing more bucks, and you're getting rid of that disease. And if you ever heard of carrying capacity, property can handle, let's say 40 acres can handle 10 deer. Once they have fawns and there's 15 deer, where do those 5 deer go? They move out, don't they? They spread. So what we're trying to do in some of those core areas, like around St. Mary, all the way up to Quarrytown Road, down to almost to Uniontown, all the way up to Bloomsdale, Wholesome, we're trying to reduce that deer herd so deer don't get so dense that they disperse and take the disease with them. We want that deer herd low so healthy deer move in. And what happens is if you continue to do that year after year after year, and if you kill a positive deer on your 40 acres and allow us, or you do it yourself, to come in and harvest that family group, you're taking out those sick deer, and hopefully healthy deer move back in. There's no cure for it. We got to do something. And right now we're trying to keep that deer prevalency rate around 1%. We're at 2.7 here in St. John County, 2.7%. That's still very low. We're doing a good job. We're killing a lot of deer. We're using these bonus tags in the core areas, so we're reducing the deer numbers. We're getting rid of those sick deer. We're getting them out of there. We're getting healthy deer moving back in. This is the hottest spot in the state, St. John County. You go up to Wisconsin, they tried to do this same tactic. They found the disease in the early 2000s. The people spoke and said, absolutely not, you're not killing more deer. This is a big industry for us. It's billions of dollars. $1.6 billion for the state of Missouri, deer season alone. 500,000 deer tags sold in Missouri. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of people. But the small business, you remember Chico's? My God, he made most of his money during the 10-day deer season. And it wasn't deer tags, it was beer, ice, tobacco, snacks. So it's a huge industry. But Wisconsin lost that ability to do that. And in about the same time period, they're over 50% prevalent right now in their antlered deer. So every other deer you shoot in the southern part of Wisconsin is positive for CWD, and the CDC recommends not eating it. So man, they got deer dropping over like flies, just all summer long. It's horrible.
What happens if you eat it?
I've eaten it. My daughter killed a 150-inch dandy buck over off Limekill Road, and I got a little greedy. We sent the test off, but man, you got those beautiful hams, and I sliced them and made jerky, and I was sitting there eating the jerky when the phone call came that my daughter's deer was positive. I was like, spit it out.
That might explain a few things.
It does, doesn't it? So Jeff City laughs that I'm the test guinea pig for CWD in humans right now. I don't know. We test all our deer, and now we wait until the test results come back, and we haven't had a positive one since. I have pulled samples out of a lot of positive deer, I know that. So I start wearing gloves now. Do you have a question? You're just making fun of me.
Yeah, you touched on it at the beginning, but did you mention how it's transmitted? Or are there primary ways that it's transmitted from deer to deer or to
Yeah, so, and I am the worst speaker in the world because this is all on a slideshow. I'm just rambling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we might not ever get to it. I don't even know what time it is. It's transferred from nose-to-nose contact. It could transfer to the fawn from the doe. During the mating season, it's transferred. Saliva, feces. And that's why we banned baiting in St. John County, or feeding. And people are flipping out. They're like, hey man, we feed deer all summer, take pictures of it, grandma wants to watch them, whatever. And we understand that, but when you have a sick deer eating out of a corn pile, and that corn pile has been there for 10 years, every deer after that is subjected to CWD. And that folded protein isn't like something we can incinerate or burn or plow under. It actually gets involved in the soybean plant in the field, and it grows up, and if a deer comes by and eats that soybean plant, can get that prion. So I mean, and they don't know how many prions or prions they have to eat before it gets in their lymph system, into their, it's kind of a guessing game right now, but the more you're subjected to, the more likely you're going to come down with CWD. So that's why we ban that baiting. Yeah.
We're not going to get rid of it around here then, if it's in the ground.
Well, now they say it lasts 2 years in the ground. So there is an end to that story. At first, back 10 years ago when we started this, it was like, you can't get rid of it. It's forever, because it's a piece of protein. And that's so far over my dumb head, I can't even imagine it. But it gets absorbed by the trees, by worms, by everything. And did I answer your question?
Answer mine.
Yeah, it's a spooky disease.
Well, it does cross the species there then, genetic-wise, from an animal to a plant.
Well, it's just in the plant. I don't think it makes the plant sick. It's just like nitrogen getting drawn up there. So when the plant dies, there's still nitrogen in the soil. You know, when it biodegrades, so that protein gets up there and biodegrades when the, but again, we're way out of my comfort zone of talking. I can talk about squirrels and skunks and armadillos, but now we got talking about, yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of in the medical field, so I'm going to explain this again. I want you to clarify this. I just want to try to figure it out in your brain. So if it's transferred through the saliva, and you got the deer eating in your soybean field, which they do a lot of soybean eating and corn eating out of some of the fields that we crop. So then it goes into the soil, and then the plant next year would then still have that protein within that plant.
That's what I've been told. But the only good thing is, across a bean field, it's so spread out. And I'm going to make this very simple for me to understand. Let's say you need 1,000 proteins to get the disease. When you're in a bean field, you might pick up one a month. And I don't know if that degrades in your body or what. But when you're on a corn pile that's there for 20 years, and you've seen salt licks in this county that are 3 foot deep. There's been salt there since the 60s. And deer are licking it every night. And that's where you're concentrating some of those things.
So if you're feeding a concentrated area,
Yes.
or in the same area, you're likely to build up that protein.
Build up the protein.
Out in the field, you're less likely to do.
Much less. Yeah, if it was just one protein that you picked up and got sick, every deer would be sick already. You know what I mean? And people gripe that during our culling season, after all the deer seasons are over, we come in on farms that had a hot deer, and as long as the landowner allows us, and they tell us, hey, you can shoot 3 deer, you can shoot 4, you can only take 1. We want to be right there where that sick deer was shot during the regular season, and it came back positive. So we go in there and we put a corn pile out. And we concentrate those deer, and we shoot those 3 deer that landowner allows us. And then we go in, and we've got a team that comes in after the deer's harvested. We rake and vacuum that corn up, and we get out of there. You know, we hear all the time at the gas station, or I do, my God, you're spreading the disease because you're putting out corn too. And I guess in a little bit of sense we are, but we're killing every deer that touches it, and then we're vacuuming it up. So we're not leaving corn piles out there for deer to eat for years. So the concentration thing is what really concerns us. And so antlered bucks are a little bit more prone to have an adult antlered buck to get this disease because they breed with 25 does and they travel miles during breeding season. So it's hard. We're sitting here saying, hey, let's concentrate on that hot spot. Let's kill those deer. And if it's a buck, we don't really look at it because he could have traveled 10 miles that night. We can't go in there and say, hey, farmer, we're wanting to kill the deer on your farm. You killed a 10-pointer yesterday. And he's like, I don't have a picture of that deer. It showed up Saturday morning. I shot it. So we get that. But if you shoot an adult doe, they'll live their whole life on 80 acres. And if she's positive, her family group is positive because of the concentration where she's at, you know, the kicking, the laying, the licking, whatever mom does. And so almost guaranteed that she's going to be positive where that family group is. And if we get rid of them, healthy herd, you go down to Quarry Town and you shoot a couple deer in one of those ditches, you're going to have deer in there the next week. I mean, it's prime habitat. You know, so deer are wanting to move in there. They're just getting run out by the deer that are already there. And we radio collar deer down in Jackson or down in Cape, and it was amazing to me. We could watch these things on satellite, watch the hunters sitting in their stand. They would sit in a thicket all deer season, never leave 40 acres. And the farmer's like, I need crop damage permits because they're eating all my beans, but they're not here during deer season. And we're like, yeah, they are. She was right behind you. She watched you drop your Twinkie. I mean, she's right there. So highly intelligent. Wildlife is amazing to me. How can a monarch, 4th generation, migrate to Mexico? That just blows my mind. You know, a baby duck follows his mom down to Arkansas for the summer or for the winter. I get that a little bit. You know, she's following mom. But a monarch takes off and flies to Mexico, and they land on the same 3 acres of every other monarch in Canada and the United States. Unbelievable. So yeah.
When you mentioned monarch, that part of those monarchs never get down there because they're say, they reproduce as they go north.
It's only the fourth generation. The first 3 generations live a month. Fourth one lives 6 months. Unbelievable. We used to, when the kids were young, we would go to all the milkweed and catch all the baby caterpillars, and we fed them milkweed all fall, and then we'd tag them and release them, because the monarch study wanted to see if, once they all leave Mexico in the spring, they go around and find all the dead ones and see if they're tagged and where they came from. We never got a call back. Ours probably died when they hit the midway, but you know, we tried. It was kind of fun. Next slide. We went over all this, I believe. Misfolded protein, does that make sense to the medical field? Next one. Direct contact, saliva. Like I said, it could transfer to the fawns. We don't even test fawns because it takes 18 to 24 months to show up. So why test a 6-month-old fawn when you shoot it? The next one. Well, I didn't really need a slideshow, did I? You know, they get really sick and you can almost push them over. They don't even know you're there. And the rib cages are showing.
I never heard anything about saliva being able to transport that pathogen. So if they're like during breeding season, like they're inseminated and so forth, I guess that could transfer that way as well, do you know?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what they tell me. And I am taking this straight from the biologist. You know, they're way above me. But that's what they're saying, and that's why that roaming buck is a disaster for us. But that's how he catches it easier, because he's involved with 20 to 30 does that week. So large bucks tend to have it. Well, I said my daughter shot a 150 plus inch 10-pointer. The landowner never saw that deer on any of his game cameras all year. So it just showed up that morning. She just happened to be sitting there and shot it, and it came back positive. Healthy looking deer. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So we want that prevalency rate really low, because let's say they come up with something someday. And you know, I was told by some of those guys that it's kind of a far stretch, because you know 80% of our money goes to human health, and it needs to. You know, you cure cancer, I could care less about CWD. But then about 20% of the rest of that money goes to our animal health that we eat. You know, your cows, your chickens, all that stuff. So you've got about 0.1% that goes to wildlife health. So we're really trying to spread that money and trying to find, with all these other states combined, man, if we could come up with a salt lick or something that could do something, and MDC would probably buy it for all these farmers and put them all out for the deer to lick, and maybe it could slow the disease down. You know, if it slowed it down 4 or 5 more years, these deer would live their life out, you know, and we would have deer for the future. But real quick, in 20 years, if we do nothing, it can jump up to 50% prevalency rate, just like Wisconsin did. And the neat story about Wisconsin is just south of them was Illinois, obviously. But their counties, they went in and harvested the deer that had family groups that were sick. And they went in and reduced the deer herd, just like we're doing it in Missouri, in St. John County. And they're still at less than 2% prevalency rate, just across the border from Wisconsin, which they had to stop and do everything. They couldn't do anything because the people voted them out. Our department's set up a little bit different government-wise, but yeah, southern Wisconsin's hurting. And you know, Illinois, it's a big deer hunting community, if you know that. I mean, they're big bucks. They want that. And who wants to go hunting in southern Wisconsin if you're a deer hunter and you want to travel out of state, kill a big buck? You're not going to go to that southern part of Wisconsin because they're all sick. They're not getting the age on them. So they lost a lot of revenue in that part of the state, because Wisconsin's a big buck country too. And look, it says $1.6 billion for deer hunting in just the state of Missouri. That's pretty impressive. We don't want that reputation of having sick deer where people aren't coming in to hunt. Next slide. So this is where we kind of have the distribution of CWD. You can see St. John County there in the center there, and you can see the dark gray around Colorado, Wyoming. That's where it started back in the 60s. Almost 1990, I think, that was the only distribution of CWD. So Missouri started testing deer way before we found it, like 12 years before we found it. We did a lot of testing. I don't know if you deer hunters remember that there was a couple years you had to go take your deer in long before we found the disease. So we tested like 33,000 deer before we even found the disease. And then we found it up around Macon in a captive deer herd. And that Saskatchewan up there, you can see all those captive, those yellow dots are captive deer herds, and the red dots are captive deer herds that are, what's it say?
Facilities.
Yeah. But the yellow, I think they've been eliminated of white-tailed deer. Once they have a 2,000 acre farm or something fenced in and they got a sick deer in it, they eradicate the deer in that herd so it doesn't transfer to the wild deer. So yeah, it's spreading, but we're trying to keep it down as much as we can. Next. Yeah, see that hot zone in Wisconsin? That southwestern corner? They detected it in 2001. In that first year of testing, had 12,000 positive deer. You know, I mean, that's crazy. We detected ours 10, 15 years ago, and we still don't have those kind of numbers. We're at 600. So we're really knocking it down. And the neat thing is when our targeted culling, the percentage of positive deer we kill is so high. It's like 14% of the deer we kill are positive. And we killed 300-something thousand deer last year, you know, in the state. And when you're only talking about 649 to date, since we first found it, that's a minimal amount of deer. But we wanted to keep that way.
Did they try anything similar to what we have here in Charlotte?
Say it one more time. Similar.
Wisconsin, did they try anything similar to Charlotte like we have here?
Yeah, I told you they started that, and then the public freaked out, and they went to, they shut them down. So Wisconsin DNR washed their hands of it. They can't legally do anything. So yeah, that's why that prevalency rate went to 50%. Go to the next slide. I think it shows you where Illinois is. Nope. Well, here's a hot spot down in Tennessee, and you can read that first detected in 2018, and it was already at a 24% prevalency rate. They never did any detection like we did years in advance. We found it real early, real hot, and then we attacked it. So we've done real well. You know, these guys are finding it late. That's too positive. There's too many sick deer there to help. You're going to lose that deer herd. I think Arkansas is next. Hit it again, please. Next slide. Yeah, see where Arkansas found it? They found it in 16. They're already at 23%. You know, remember, we're still around 1%, except St. John County is 2.76%. So we're still way down there, and that culling is really working. It's a hard nut to swallow when you own a farm and you want to deer hunt, but we're keeping the numbers down. Next slide, please. Saskatchewan screwed. I shouldn't have said it like that, I'm sorry. Saskatchewan's in trouble. They got a lot of hot deer. And they think that all came from a high fence. Next, please.
Well, what was it you said it came from? Saskatchewan?
High fence, big shooting areas. And the problem with the shooting areas, and I'm not knocking those guys, but before they knew the disease was around, they're hauling deer all over the country. You know, they're buying this buck for $20,000 and they breed it for a while and then they ship it to here. So, I mean, the disease was popping. And if you look at some of our hot states and hot spots, there's big high fence areas right in the center. And I'm not knocking those guys. They didn't know at the beginning. I mean, nobody did. And it's kind of...
I'm a member of the Conservation Federation of Missouri. I know when I went to their convention, so that was a hot thing in the state. They were trying to prevent from those private places moving and stuff, moving those animals. Do you know, is that legal now?
So we've got a team now that is just dedicated to those, and they know every deer in captivity by name, this team of ours. So they're watching it very closely. They have to have papers, they have to have everything. It's not like the old days where you could just transfer deer overnight. The other thing is, you know, when I started back in the 90s, one of my goals was to catch these guys taking fawns out of the wild. And then I realized they don't want this common fawn that Dad was a little 6-pointer. You know, they want fawns out of these monster bucks. So it would hurt them to have taken deer out of the wild. I always thought that they were going out at night stealing fawns and throwing them in their pen for people to shoot, but I don't believe that's the case. I'll be honest with you, once that team started, they told Rob, you're not smart enough to investigate these guys. So all of his agents in the field, we walked away from the high fence because we put these guys in on it. And they knew what they're doing. I mean, they're working the hogs. Some of these high fence have hogs, and now we're trying to eradicate hogs out of the state. That's the next program we'll do. And you know, they're pretty intelligent on it. They know every deer that's in there. They're all categorized and barcoded, and it's unbelievable. But here's back to our Missouri stats. You can see that little spot down in Berry County or whatever, southwest Missouri. That's stemming from that Arkansas junk. We found a deer or two positive in the Boot Hill last year, stemming from that Tennessee junk. Now, and I hate to be like this, but Illinois is starting to find some in Randolph County because of our junk, right here in St. John County. And then that Macon, we know for sure, that was the first place it was detected, and that came from a high fence. We had a high fence that was hot, killed all the deer in it, but it had leaked out, and some of the deer running around there. Sampled 30,000 deer prior to our first detection, which is pretty impressive. And I know I'm just bragging on conservation department, but that was impressive. But 693 positive deer so far. So when we're talking about Arkansas with 18,000, the first year they detected it, they're in trouble. We're still at 693 for the whole state. Next, please. Yeah, see the range, 0.15 to 2.76. We are St. John is the 2.76. See in the bottom, prevalency rate. Perry County's got just a couple. Jefferson County is a little bit hotter. The neat thing about Jeffco though is they're like 5-acre landowners. And you tell a 5-acre landowner, here's 10 deer tags, they're like, woohoo! So they're really reducing the herd. You know, St. John, you got guys with a couple hundred acres and they spend thousands of dollars every year to put deer food plots in, and they kill 5 or 6 deer, and they think, man, I've done my part. And in a sense they have, but there's probably 25 deer living on it. So, like I said, Jefferson County is really knocking them down. We're not doing near as well in St. John, but again, I get it. I really do. Next slide. We talked about all this, why we're doing it. We want to keep that herd healthy. Our management practices. Next. So last year, 267,000 deer harvested. I don't think that number's right. I think it was over 300,000. You know, St. John killed 3,042 during 2024 deer season. So when you look at how many deer were taken after the season, it's very minimal. Hit the next slide for me. I think it shows it. The core area. Next one. Nope, next one. Next one. Huh. Maybe it's not on there. So our goal was 490 deer to harvest after all the deer seasons were over during that CWD culling season. We didn't reach that goal. Jefferson County reached theirs like that. But if you got hot deer, we go within, I think it's down to a mile now, around that deer, and we try to concentrate on shooting deer around that hot deer. We used to be out to 5 miles, but our goal was 490 deer. We didn't reach it. Go ahead to the next one. We talked about the goals of it, to lower that deer herd, to get the sick deer out. And what they're talking about, those management permits, we only give extra permits free to landowners or to their shooters that have a hot deer. And if they have a hot deer on their farm, they get extra tags. And the amount of positive deer was impressive. Like 15% of those deer that were harvested on those management tags were positive. So that's a pretty good sign. Then you're shooting them during deer season. People don't have a hard time swallowing that. They get to shoot them themselves. We're paying their processing. The Federation is helping out a bunch, Conservation Federation, but they're paying their processing for those deer to, it's hard to tell somebody like you, hey, go kill 10 deer. What do you do with it? You can have so much overly sausage in your freezer. I mean, And my God, you'd have to get a second job if you process 10 deer. Or take it to Stani, see what your bill is. But you can't make a family kill more deer. I mean, you take 1 or 2 deer and that lasts you a year. You probably throw a little bit of it away the next deer season. You can give them all the free tags you want. So we have that Share the Harvest program. And now they have that Friday backpack program for kids that are needing protein. The schools are using the deer snack sticks that are tested negative, and they're giving them to the kids on Friday when they go home with their backpack to get that protein in them. So that's kind of a neat program. Arkansas is doing it, Tennessee's doing it. Stani's does it all. I'm sure they're making $1 or $2 on it, but I don't remember how many thousands of pounds of snack sticks we donated to the schools because of the Share the Harvest meet during the culling season. So if you have deer during the culling season, I harvest deer on your farm, or you allow us to come in, or your kids come in and shoot, we take that deer to Stani's, we test it. If it comes back negative, you can either get the deer back or donate it to Share the Harvest. We'll cut it up for you, grind it, put it in packages, bring it back to you frozen. And that's all. I'm like a pizza delivery boy back in March, walking around with boxes of deer meat, delivering to farmers. Yeah, we do like 380 deer we delivered back to Jeffco and to St. John, St. Francis. Next slide. So during the whole targeted removal, this is after all the seasons are over, this is a season everybody hates. We only killed 4,658 deer. And in our whole zone, and it went literally from Bullinger County, Uniontown or Longtown, all the way up to Wholesome. That's where that core ended. We only killed 390 deer in that whole zone during the culling season. So when people say they killed 45 deer off of Mississippi Lime, they're lying to you. You know, we killed 3. Next one. There's our core. The one in the center. Those are all the positive deer we've had in St. John core. But like I said, it goes all the way down to Bullinger County, over almost, east of Perryville, and all the way up to Wholesome on the north end. And we killed 380 deer, which isn't near enough. We didn't reach our core. Our goal was 490. And you see Jeffco, they reached theirs pretty quick. By the first, it wasn't even a month, 30 days. They killed 230 deer, 236. Well, we had 7 positives out of that 380 deer. That's pretty impressive. That's a high number. Next slide. You see the numbers there? 2024, we had a few more hot ones than we normally do. We had 24 hot deer in St. John County. But that's because we gave those extra permits to guys that had hot deer the year before. They're killing deer around hot zones, and they're killing hot deer, which is exactly what we wanted. We were hoping that number would jump up, and it did. Next slide. We talked about all that. In 20 years, it'll be 50% if we back off. Next one. You guys got any questions about CWD or what the future?
Does anyone know why St. John County is supposed to be such a hot zone?
Man, I have speculations, but I don't know. Yeah, I really don't. All I know is that we found our first one in St. Mary, and then we worked hard to find more in the whole county. We found a couple more in St. Mary, so it's like it started there. Weird. And then we have rules about transporting carcasses. We've had, before we put the rules in there, people didn't know. You kill a deer in Iron County, you bring it over here, you clean it, you throw it out in the back ditch, in the backyard, let the buzzards eat it, and all of a sudden you're transferring a hot deer into St. John County. Just likewise the other way. We don't want our hot deer leaving and getting thrown out in Iron County. Iron County doesn't have a positive deer yet. So we got laws now about transporting deer across county lines, carcasses, that kind of stuff. Out of state deer, they have to go to a processor. You can't process them yourself now. You can leave them there and process. And when I say that, you can't take the spinal column or the skull with the brain matter in it across state lines. You can debone them or quarter them and you're okay. We just don't want that spinal column because that's where that disease sticks the brain and the spinal column. Yeah.
Is there a concern about the buzzard spreading it?
See, that's a big concern to me. Think about it. Coyotes eating it, buzzards, whatever, and then they're flying anywhere in the world and pooping and whatever, and are they pooping it out? I mean, you almost have to. Well, what do you do about that? So we require any positive deer, everything's incinerated. And then the ashes are taken to a lined landfill, okay? So if I shoot a deer that's sick, let's say next month, somebody calls me and says, Rob, I got a sick deer. It's gotta be CWD. Of course, I walk up being very negative because I'll take 100 samples, which is disgusting in July. You know, it stinks. You don't find them the day it falls over. It's 3 days later when the buzzards are circling. So I'm up to here pulling spleen and liver and lymph nodes. Yeah, my wife loves it. But if that comes back positive, we even go back there and dig that carcass up and incinerate it. And that's a fun job. It really is. But yeah, we're trying our best to keep those positive deer off the landscape. You know, if 2 weeks later your deer comes back positive, I'm the guy that calls you and says, hey, what'd you do with the carcass? And you say, hey, I threw it in the burn pile. I haven't burnt it yet. I drive out there and I take the carcass and we destroy it in Colombia.
So these prions, you said that was discovered in the 60s, okay, out west. Do you know, was that pathogen, do we have any idea if that was native at all across America, or did that come from like Europe or some other country originally? Do we know?
So the one thing I do know was in the sheep that they were studying. And
You don't know if that originated.
we don't. I don't, man. You could Google that, I think, or my daughters could Google it. I can't. But we'll let Dean Google it. Dean can't do it either. So, man, I can't answer that. I'm not positive if it came from there. I wish I did.
I work with things like rabies, and I asked the state veterinarian one time, they said our rabies strain, it originates in the whole world. And you know, he told me that we don't know. He said we may have had our own strain here in North America, but we don't really know for sure.
Right.
So it's kind of like this, possibly the same.
Well, and you got to remember in the 60s, we weren't testing anything. If a game warden in St. John in the 60s found a dead deer, he just pushed off the side of the road and you turn the belly away from the road so nobody else calls you. You try to hide it. You know, so we didn't have that scare yet. Now, of course, you know, hemorrhagic is a big disease that deer get, especially in dry, drought, warm falls. You know, we get that blue tongue or hemorrhagic. And it's kind of like when you say CWD and scrapie, are they the same, or mad cow disease? They're not the same, because blue tongue, it's actually called hemorrhagic or EHD in white-tailed deer. It's not the same as blue tongue in cows, but it's the same thing. But I guess it doesn't jump species. The blue tongue, or the hemorrhagic or EHD in deer don't jump into cows. And it's from a midge fly that bites them in those little dry pools that the deer are drinking out of. If we have a rainy fall, we don't have an issue with it. But in 2012, I think, in St. John, man, we just got wiped out. I mean, it knocked the deer herd in half. Deer were laying everywhere. So yeah, I'm not sure about where that pathogen came from.
I've got something here that you'd like to know. If you trust the internet. Just Googling a little bit.
I told you could Google it, Dean.
Are we interested in that?
Did it come from here? I don't know. Or Colorado?
You talk about the originate,
Right.
right?
Where did that
Right, what did
pathogen
it say?
originate?
Prion disease was first described in the 1800s and includes scrapping in sheep and other neurodegenerative diseases such as mad cow, blah, blah, blah. Fatal, blah, blah, okay, sorry, had to go to the site. No, sorry, I'm not finding yours.
So that Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease, you've all heard of that, or CJD? Am I saying it correct? Creutzfeldt? You know, it's a fatal spongiform, I guess, in humans. And I heard about this tribe. When this first started, there was a tribe down there in like Brazil or somewhere and no human contact.
New Guinea.
Was it New Guinea?
Papua New Guinea.
And they eat the brain off the dead warrior.
Yeah, ritual cannibalism. Male familial insomnia and kukru from ritual cannibalism in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, but they're dying of that Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease, and the women are dying faster than the men because the other men are allowed to eat the big muscle meat. The women have to eat the brain. I think somebody needs to go down there and tell them, quit eating that. Whew, no, I ain't going. Anybody else got any bear or armadillo or CWD questions? I think we CWD'd out.
Quick question on armadillos.
I shouldn't have brought up armadillos.
Oh God, they're digging up everything again.
They're horrible.
They're horrible. Can you trap them and kill them without any kind of permit?
Yeah, you can protect your property from any species except bear, deer, turkey, and mountain lions. So yeah, raccoons, anything like that. You know, this is like in '98. I got my first call about an armadillo on the north end. I'm like, you guys are drunk. There's no way there's an armadillo in Missouri. So I drive up there and this woman's scared to death and she's like pointing to it, and like an idiot I walked over, I'm like, oh God, it is an armadillo. And I bent down to grab it by the tail and I touched it. Those things jumped straight up, hit me in the nose, bloodied my nose. I screamed like a woman, took off running. The armadillo took off running. Yeah, I didn't catch that one. So that was my first experience. And since then, they have been a menace. They are difficult to trap. You can't bait them. You can't bait them with grubs. So how they trap these things is take a wooden box trap. You take a dead armadillo from the road and roll it around in it. And you open your trap up where your armadillo's in your yard, and overnight he smells that other armadillo and would go in there. And it's pretty effective. But don't ruin my story, Dean. So my first experience in trapping them, I took a metal flange all the way across a lady's yard and made a cone. It was like 40 foot in each direction. I put a trap on the end of it. And I thought, this is gonna work perfect. You know, and actually after 4 or 5 nights, I did catch them. But I had caught every cat, every box turtle, every snake. I mean, everything that hit that thing walked into the armadillo trap. But that's the only way we recommend trapping them is get the smell of an armadillo in a box and put it in your yard, and sometimes it's effective. But you can shoot an armadillo if he's tearing up your yard anytime without permit. Raccoons tearing up your chicken house, you can shoot it to protect your property. I'm getting a lot of calls. I got 3 raccoon calls today. I actually have a baby raccoon in the back of my truck right now. I know, it's horrible. And I'm not gonna point names. I got a guy call me on the way in. I dealt with 2 bear calls on the way in, and I only live in Weingarten, so it's not that far of a drive. But another guy had 2 baby fox in a trap. He's trying to protect his chickens. He's willing to cut the head off the mama fox, but when the baby fox are in there, he's horrified and wants me to raise them up and release them like Todd and whatever from that show.
You already killed the mom?
No, he can't catch the mom. Mom's too smart. The 2 pups ran in there. And of course, my feeling is if you're tough enough to want to get rid of the mom because your chicken building, fence building isn't good enough.
Right, 15 minutes.
Well, listen what I deal with. I had a guy shoot a coyote during turkey season, walked over to pick it up thinking I'm big and bad. 7 baby cubs sitting there with it. Picks them up, quits his turkey hunt, and comes to me and says, Rob, save him. I'm like, no, man. If you're tough enough to shoot mom, you know, the whole point is getting rid of your coyotes on your farm to protect everything. But I end up taking them. Yeah.
What about big cats? Have we ever actually had a record, you know, a record of big cat?
In my time here, we've had 2 confirmed mountain lions in St. John County. And again, they're just males looking for places to run. You want to talk about an animal that roams. I mean, it really does. We had a we had one that was tagged in the Badlands, and it got in South Dakota and got hit by a car in Connecticut. I mean, they roam. It's like the last wolf we had shot was out of the UP, and it was killed in northern Missouri with somebody's sheep in his mouth. So I mean, these things roam a lot. So those cats that I have photographs of from game cameras, that we went out and we looked at where the picture was. We put a silhouette out to make sure it wasn't just a house cat. You know, we have 2 confirmed mountain lions in St. John that I've been here.
I got a photo here of a paw print that I took in 2000.
It's almost like you're talking French. Do what?
No, it's paw print in 2019.
A paw print?
7 inches across.
Yeah. And I do get cat prints. I get bear prints. Get a lot of dog prints that they say are mountain lions or whatever.
7 inches across.
Big dog. Big dog. The one catch on those is if there's toenails showing, it's not a cat.
This one, there was a game camera photo. It was about 2 days later. Somebody else got it, and it looked like a big cat. I mean, I can't guarantee it, but I called the conservation department and said, no, it's a dog. Well, I was curious.
Well, we tend to do that. Nah. You know, we said that down in Reynolds County. A guy was saying that there's a mountain lion eating his stuff. We're like, you're crazy. He brings it in a box trap. He caught it, brought it to the courthouse, middle of the day. We're like, hard to deny this one. So we collared it, released it at Peck Ranch. And you know, the first thing it killed was an elk that we stocked from Tennessee. So we still have pictures of that mountain lion over dead elk at Peck Ranch. So that mountain lion lives in Shannon County. That's not too far away. When a cat can walk from the Badlands of North Dakota or South Dakota and get hit by a car in Connecticut. Yeah.
Right, conservation area. I forget. I think that's Columbia, isn't it?
Say it again, Runge?
Right, the conservation center. Like
Jeff City.
Where is it?
Jeff City.
It is Jeff City.
Yeah.
Well, they've got one in there. You've probably seen it. It's mounted. It got hit by a car.
Yeah.
And it's missing its like hand from her fall a year down. And it lived like that, I believe.
Right. You know, the first like 21 cats, and I'm making this number up, but a bunch, when they did autopsies on roadkills, they had like, what do you call when they do the belly content? Necropsy? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. They dissect the belly. They had nothing but roadkill in their belly, so they weren't killing anything. They were starving animals that were released from somebody's care. And we had a couple that we thought were wild, and they ended up being declawed. So when they got hit by a car, Highway 70 seems like a good road for them. You know, you pick this mountain lion up, I get 10 calls a day about, hey, there's a dead something here, African lion. You know, I've had cheetahs dead on the road, and I haven't. You know, it's a lab. But you pick up a mountain lion, it's declawed. Obviously, it's somebody's pet. So we keep a little bit better track of who has mountain lions now. We had several get loose in Bloomsdale several years ago, and we went out looking for them because we didn't want them running loose. And the guy actually called him back to his truck with a chicken. He threw the chicken in the truck and slammed the door when the mountain lion jumped in it. Yeah, it's bat crazy. Anything else, guys? I think I wore out my welcome.
Anything about hog around?
Let me ask him real quick. Hold on 2 seconds.
They worried about that, or do they have any idea that that could, like, be transmitted to cows?
The CWD? Yeah. So right now it's not the same disease. It's not mad cow disease. Mad cow disease has killed people, hasn't it? Yeah. Like in Europe? Yeah. I mean, that's something spooky. But, and I don't know when that big scare was, but they eradicated all the cows on that island. But this isn't the same. It's a folded protein, but technically it's in the ungulate or the deer herd. It's not jumping to cows. And we don't want it to. That'd be a bad day.
Does that affect moose at all?
Yes. Moose. I don't think sheep, like rams, like bighorn rams, bighorn sheep, but you know, or antelope. Isn't antelope a goat? Yeah, but it's the mule deer, white-tailed deer, black-tailed deer, moose, and mule deer. What'd you ask again about the hogs?
We've had a few shot in the county.
So St. John County, it's kind of neat because we have the highest hunting population density. So it looks like a pumpkin patch during deer season in St. John County. So any hog that walks through St. John County gets shot during deer season, which is wonderful. We've had traps down around the wineries. We've had traps off of WW. We've caught some hogs. But you know, MDC with that Sarah Parker Pauley, who used to be our director, she stood up and said, I'm eradicating the hogs from Missouri. We don't want them. And we had a lot of lashback with the hog hunters down in the Ozarks. They're actually raising and releasing. And it's hard to compete when a hog can have 25 young a year and she's only got to be 6 months old to start having babies. You know, they reproduce like mad. So they started walking from about the Missouri River south, and we had teams, MDC staff, I mean, it made about fisheries biologists, foresters, game wardens, all this stuff would start walking, and they documented every hog sign. It was an unbelievable task. And once they found the hog sign, they put trappers in behind them, and they trapped every hog, and they kept going down. And they almost eradicated hogs. Pretty impressive feat. They said it couldn't be done, but she put a lot of money into it. And hogs are bad for all other wildlife. I mean, turkey nest, baby everything. They'll eat baby deer. What?
They eat an armadillo?
Apparently they don't eat armadillos.
It's an armadillo.
And who's that jerk that brought one up here, you know, from Texas?
What eats an armadillo?
Nothing. A buzzard once it gets hit. I've never seen anything eat an armadillo. I wouldn't eat one. They got leprosy. No.
I talked to some people around the Lake Walpapello, and they had terrible infestation of hogs there. And conservation came in, and they say they can use their land almost now again.
Yeah.
Because they got on to them, but they were terrible in that area.
Yeah, that Duck Creek, Mingo, Wapapello area, it was horrible. But they've really helped it out.
Do they? Some people that hunt in Texas say they eat the hog. Do we eat that in Missouri? Some other people do.
A lot of them do, yeah. Yeah, but you know, when you raise a hog and you put 600 pounds of corn to it, it's got that beautiful marble and fat. You get one of these Razorbacks running on, you know, acorns and stuff, I spit it out. It's nasty. I don't care for it. I've eaten several of them. And I've been to Texas shooting hogs and tried to eat them, and yeah.
One of my boys was hunting in, I believe, Reynolds County 10, 15 years ago. Didn't see any deer, but then they shot at a boar that came in there. I guess he shot him in like the shoulder and the stomach. The gun turned and came to him, so
Yeah.
he kind of plugged him in the head. But he got two that day. They told him not to eat him or skin it, but the neighbors took 5 of them that day.
Is that right? Yeah, like I said, they eat them. You know, what's really working is those helicopters in the snow, especially on like Johnson Shut-ins, Tomsauk Mountain, all those big areas. They have game wardens that are gunners off the side of those, and man, they do some good work in the snow.
Well, they got like 4,000 down there around Walpapello.
Kill them. Yeah.
And, you know, hey, that's a pretty good hunt down there. How many get? Several hundred? No, we got over 4,000.
Yeah.
But they didn't take any of them, just left them.
Well, we can't do that anymore because that swine flu, we got to remove them. Yeah, and you want to talk about a rough job.
What is it?
I said swine flu, but I don't think that's it. Oh, I'd have to get back to you on that. There's something they didn't want in the water. So we got teams going in after the helicopters and picking them up.
Not to skin this one or touch the intestines. That was where the problem was.
Huh, I don't know. Like I said, I like Dairy Queen too much to be 2 miles back dragging a 200-pound hog out.
Any other questions?
Keep your hand down, Dee. Sit on your hand.
Rob Sulkowski. I'll bet you have some stories to tell. You could go on all night, I think. We thank you so much for joining us tonight. Rob's presentation was sponsored by During Outdoors, so let's give an applause for During Outdoors. Very nice event today. We have an event that we're kind of planning. It's in the planning stages right now, coming up in July, I think. And might be kind of fun, kind of a, what are we calling it? Ride through history. And we hope to maybe get one of the buses from the winery and go around the county and see some of the sites where some of our speaker presentations have talked about. So we're thinking about doing that, and we'd love for you to give us some feedback on that. Jan, raise your hand. She's got some forms over there. Just a quick survey if you'd like to, or Russ's hand been sent out too. If you'd like to fill that out for us and send it in or drop it off at the museum. Or yes, just real quick, we can do it right now tonight too. But we think that might be kind of an interesting event to have, so we would appreciate that. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and safe travels going home.